It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you
I
guys
sounded like Mickey Mouse, didn't I? Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Well,
Oh,
everybody.
it sounded like Dr. Dick.
Hi there, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay out there, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025.
Hey, the future.
Yay.
The
Welcome.
hell is my flying car, damn it.
So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, dang. I've been busy.
Yay.
Yay. Although it was kind of cool, we did go down to Colorado and stay with one of Phil's friends, but he's like really into TV shows and movies too. So he got me started on Ozark with, I keep wanting to call him Justin Bateman, but it's
Jason.
There you go. Jason Bateman. It's actually kind of a pretty good series. And he's like, yeah, it's already over. I think there's 5 seasons of it. I'm just now at the end of the first, so pretty decent little show. I'm surprised I missed this one. Kind of a horror drama kind of feel to it. But then I also started watching the Righteous Gemstones. I think it comes on HBO, but it's got Danny McBride and the guy who played Dan Connor, Roseanne.
John Goodman?
John Goodman. There you go. Yeah, I love Danny McBride. He's got a kind of a raunchy sense of humor. You know? So in this one, he does not disappoint. He's got that same humor. You know? But it's kind of a spotlight on the Gemstones is like a real big religious family. Kind of think like Joel Osteen in the big mega church, you know, where it's family owned and operated and has been for quite a while, you know. That's kind of them. And it starts off that Danny was caught, and there's a video of him like doing coke off this girl's big boobies. You know? Not the thing you'd want your congregation to see. So they kind of, you know.
That depends on your congregation, I think. But,
Right. Yeah, it's not this one. You know, like I said, think Joel Osteen. You know? But yeah, so that was
I don't know
kind
nothing
of.
about Joel Osteen's coke habit. I'm just saying.
Right. But yeah, that was pretty cool too. But I also got a chance to finally watch Deadpool. We watched that the first night we got there. I liked it. I really liked it a lot. I know Les has been holding back, so I wouldn't get spoilers. So I appreciate that because it was really neat because it was like, oh, damn. I didn't know he was going to be in here or he was going to bust on DC like that. You know? I think Deadpool was completely made for the fans. All the things that they talked about, like I said, the little Easter eggs they dropped here and there. that I thought it was hilarious. He was trying to find Wolverine and he jumped in one world. Little bitty guy jumps off the bar stool and he's like, "Oh, look how cute, a comic accurate Wolverine." So, but it was things like that all through it. I think if they would have gotten anyone else other than Ryan Reynolds to be Deadpool, I don't think it would have worked as well. I think that he's really molded into this part and has kind of made that franchise what it is. And then you hear all the stuff that he did behind the scenes, and it's like his thought and caring about this really shows in the movie too. So that was definitely good. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth a watch. Another one I watched was the new Demi Moore one, The Substance. That one was weird. I don't know the last time I've watched a movie like that. I don't even know how to describe it. There's not a lot of dialogue in the movie at all. We're talking maybe 100 lines total in the whole movie, but it tells the whole story just really, really well. You don't miss the dialogue in the movie, but they really went heavy on the visuals. And I think in this case, it really paid off without feeling like a bad acid trip or something, Definitely portrayed what they were trying to say, and which to me was no matter how beautiful you are or how young you are or what you have, it was never good enough. And no matter what she did, she was never happy, So it was just really, really weird. I mean, and then she won a Golden Globe for it.
I was about to ask if this was the role that she won the Golden Globe for, because I did see something about that last night. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that sounds crazy, but it takes a lot to tell a story without telling it. Just kind of puts it down in front of you and it is what it is, but you still get the story. So it like I said, definitely, I don't know if I've ever watched a movie like that. I don't even know what you would classify it as. So her win was definitely, like I said, well worth it. Really well worth it. And really made herself like vulnerable, I guess, pointing out of all of her flaws or what she sees as flaw. I mean, isn't she like 60? I hope I look like half as good as her in 10 years. So it's, like I said, it was pretty good. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it at least once, just because, like I said, there hasn't been a movie like this in a while. It's not the normal garbage they throw at us, They actually want you to think a little bit. And I also like that in this movie, I mean, like I said, you kind of get the gist of what's going on. She's not happy. She wants to be pretty, skinny, blah, blah, blah. But it's not like a message they keep throwing in your face. They want you to see. They don't want to tell you, but for you to come to that on your own by what they're showing you, So I thought that was nice too, when you're not spelling it out for them, or ruin it with some cheesy dialogue that would have taken away from that message that we are good enough, we got to be happy with what we have. And when your moment's over, it's over, you gotta move on and something else, So, yeah, like I said, I like at least watch it once. I kept waiting, like I said, I kept waiting for them to talk, and it just never it never happened. and and when they did, it like, I think Randy Quaid is in this too. Like, she's sitting down and talking to him, and even what he's saying to her, it's not so much what he's saying to her, but like he's like shoving shrimp down his mouth, and it's all yucky, and he looks like a pig is what he looks like, So, and I think that was more of what they were trying to get across than what he was actually telling her. And honestly, it was kind of, it's okay for a man to be that way, but she couldn't be that way because she was getting too old. And we got to replace you with the newest, youngest thing. And it is kind of Hollywood. Men can age and women disappear in shadows.
It's not just Hollywood. It's just
It's our society. In general.
Yeah,
Right?
pretty much. But for people like her at the time, I think she was a movie star and everything else. When you depend on your worth from people's opinions like that, that's a rough one.
Mm-hmm. And it happens more than people want to think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, given a look at Hollywood right now, how many stars have we seen like totally change their appearance now with like Ozempic that's going around? And even these beautiful girls. I hate to single anyone out, but I'm going to use Starlight, Erin Monterey or whatever her name is, as an example. Absolutely gorgeous girl. She was cute. She was the star of the show. She's getting her footing in her career. Well, then she decides to go on Ozempic and get plastic surgery done. And now she doesn't even look like the same person. And it's like, the things that made her cute, like her cute little baby face and stuff that added to that innocence of that character, has just totally been changed. And it's like, what would make a woman who is absolutely gorgeous like that decide that she wasn't pretty enough to do that to themselves? It's mind blowing, really mind blowing. And I know she's thinking, I can't be this cute little innocent girl outside of the boys. She's got to have a career after that. But I don't know. I just, like I said, she's like a totally different person now. And in movies and stuff like that, we're visual people. That's how we recognize our movie stars we like, So
very much so.
We can't recognize you anymore. But it's sad what they'll do to themselves to stay relevant, I guess. I mean, I gained a couple of pounds and I still have my job, though. So I don't know the pressures that they're under. I mean, Bill hasn't fired me yet.
The night's still young.
Right. But yeah. And like I said, all that being said, I think this movie kind of shines a spotlight on that, on what they actually, in this case, it was a woman, of what women will actually put themselves through to keep up with what people think we should be. So it's, like I said, it's definitely one of those that sends a message without telling you. So, but yeah, her win was well worth it on that one. Which brings me to Landman. It's got one more episode before the finale. Demi Moore is in this, and she's maybe had 10 lines total. So it's kind of like,
well, it sounds like in
wow.
that movie she proved that she didn't need a lot of lines to
Right.
do the job. I mean, come on.
But it to me, it's surprising to have such a big name like that in such a kind of small role right now. unless she was looking for just something that wouldn't take a lot of time, because these probably were shot during the same time she was doing her movie. But I'm just kind of surprised is all. Not that she's bad or anything in it, but I think every episode I watch where they give Billy Bob Thornton any kind of dialogue at all, it's not that I didn't like Billy Bob Thornton, but I just had never went out of my way to watch his stuff or anything. You know, he just wasn't my kind of actor. And, you know, sometimes the characters he would play just weren't, you know, what I was interested in. So he has really surprised me in this. I would have to say, like, a lot of variety, too, not just that one character I know him as. So if you haven't watched that one, I would definitely, you know, plus it's Texas. I think most of it's shot in Fort Worth and Midland, so it's been pretty interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that means me, huh?
Yeah.
I know, crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, remember we talked about this. She pauses, you jump in so she doesn't
I know,
start again.
so it shuts her down. I know.
Yeah.
You missed your cue.
Oh, all right. I've never been good at cues. Too far down
So
the
now I'm
alphabet.
going to tell you about a game I played.
No, you're not. Nuh-uh. I'm going.
Yeah.
I watched a movie. I mean, I did more than just that over a 2-week span, but that's the part I'm going to talk about. The movie I watched is called The Mystery of the Wax Museum. This is from 1933, and it stars Lionel Atwill, Fay Wray, and Glenda Farrell, and is directed by Michael Curtiz, who directed like a shitload of movies in the 30s and 40s. A lot of good stuff, too. So, and to describe this movie, I'm going to sidestep it a little bit. We've talked, at least I have talked, we may have talked about it as a group, but I've talked about the movie House of Wax from 1953, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Vincent Price movie.
Yeah, we talked about it. That was when we did Vincent Price. That was the first movie we talked about.
Cool. Then I'm not crazy.
Well,
Not about that.
Right, that one does not preclude the other. But anyway, so this Mystery of the Wax Museum is the movie that House of Wax was kind of a remake of.
Right.
It's a very different tone. Mystery of the Wax Museum is actually much less a horror film and more kind of a detective story. And here's the part that I found interesting, and it took me a bit to realize this. But like I said, the top billing on this movie is Lionel Atwill and Fay Wray. The main character, the person who plays the main character in this movie is Glenda Farrell, and we're talking about by a long shot here. She is effectively the hero of this movie. She is playing a reporter, a newspaper reporter, who is kind of uncovering all of this weird shit that's going on in this newly opening wax museum in New York. Because the guy who's opening it, who is, we'll call him the villain, was a great sculptor, and he worked in wax. But 12 years ago, he got betrayed in London by his partner, his business partner, who burned down the wax museum for the insurance money and left the guy in it. And so he's all scarred and funky looking and can't sculpt anymore. So he's spent several years and a bunch of money putting together this new museum somewhere else, obviously across the pond. But how he's making these new sculptures is a little different than the way he used to do it. So I will leave out spoilers for beyond that point because it's an interesting story. A story that, strangely, a name like Fay Ray has little more than a bit part in. She's the victim. We'll call her that. She survives. It's okay. It's fine. She's the next intended victim, but Glenda Farrell's character heads it off. It's actually a really good movie, I thought. There's some suspense. There's actually some mystery, which I don't remember getting that in the Vincent Price version. It was pretty much just, I mean, this story is the same, but it's kind of told from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because this is told from an outside looking in. House of Wax is a little less detective story and a little more horror story, but
it's pretty much spelled out.
Yeah, there's no mystery. At least the audience knows what's happening.
Right.
So in that regard, it's sort of told from the point of view of the sculptor, although not exactly. It's been a while since I saw it, but this is straight on from the perspective of the reporter. And she's really good. I was not familiar with Glenda Farrell before I saw this, and she's really good. This role included an awful lot of witty banter, primarily with her boss, the newspaper editor, and it also involved a very weird twist at the end that threw me for a loop. Has pretty much nothing to do with the story, so it's entirely after that. This is the wrapping the thing up, and they just pull this weird little twist. Go watch it to find out what I'm talking about. I'm not spoiling this for nothing. But yeah, she carries this movie. I mean, just straight up carries it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Lionel Atwill is really good as the quote unquote bad guy here, but Glenda Farrell carries this movie. I was trying to figure out where it's available, and I didn't really. I mean, I don't want to say it's not available, but it's not easy to track down. The version I watched was on the DVD I got of House of Wax back when we talked about it. So I essentially watched a DVD extra. And the colorization on the DVD extra is kind of regrettable.
Wow.
It would have been better as just black and white, but there we are. It was extremely washed out and not very adventurous. It didn't add anything interesting to this thing, so such as it is.
Yeah.
Colorization is a very iffy thing anyway. But yeah, it was a fun movie if you can track it down.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I was aware of it, and yeah, it sounds really good.
I say there might be a copy of it on YouTube somewhere. I didn't track it down specifically, but I suspect there is.
You mean it's not on Tubi?
Surprisingly, I didn't see it on Tubi.
Probably not.
It might not be.
They can't have everything.
Tubi or not Tubi?
They sure do keep trying to have everything. Totally glossing over Liz's bad joke.
I know you heard me.
Huh? There's more of that static.
Right? Very oddly convenient static. on a digital line of communication. But anyway. Yeah, maybe we can get Steve to clean that up for us later or something. I don't know.
He's been on vacation. Might be slacking.
I'm sure he enjoyed the hell out of his vacation.
He probably's like, man, did they finally kill her?
Maybe she'll hear Jensen's in Denver and she'll get herself arrested or something.
Right.
Get a few extra weeks off. I don't know.
That was her second question. And where's Jensen?
Right.
We don't have eyes on her.
Where in the world is Jensen Ackles?
He wasn't in San Antonio when I was there.
Oh, there's a folk song in there somewhere. Have to talk to Amelia, see what we can get arranged.
Well, if anybody can do it, it'd probably be her.
But yeah, that's what I got.
Cool.
Actually found a good movie to watch for a change.
Yay! Okay, Les?
Well, first I'm going to say that I need to go see this movie.
Wow.
So,
Not only did I find a good movie to watch, I found a movie Les hasn't seen.
no, I've seen it, but it's good.
Damn it. I was so close.
Good try, though.
Yep.
I saw a few movies. One's on Roku called Invitation to a Murder. I think this was, to me, it was fun because it was a murder mystery and it was a fair mystery. So I was very impressed with it. Also saw a movie with Gina Carano. Trying to remember the name. In the Blood.
What was that?
Was a daughter of not a hitman, but a survivalist. And Carano is one of those that I almost said goodbye to a couple of years ago because of her political view. And she, as a former MMA fighter, did good in this.
I like her.
She made sure that people understood that she was a badass. And she played the part very well.
Yeah. Was she an American Gladiator?
One of the TV series.
Uh-huh.
The original one? She's not old enough for that, is she?
No. I thought she was in... Let me see.
And I couldn't tell you. But obviously she does her own stunts. Does them quite well. She has not lost a step as far as the fighting position goes. I did go see Nosferatu. And I enjoyed that. That was a remake, of course. That was damn sight better than the Klaus Kinski version. And it was interesting to watch because Robert Eggers, the director, who I believe was also the writer, held to the story that Renault was telling very long ago. And by holding that story, he presented a movie that was truly epic in what they were pitching. So, yeah, if you get the chance, I'm one of those that's going to tell you too, go see it. Definitely see it at the theaters.
Yeah, hold on to that thought too, because that might come up later in this show.
I read the book by Ray Bradbury, one that was published in 88, I believe, called Driving Blind. Yeah, Driving Blind. It's a good read. It's one of those that, if you haven't read Bradbury, this is a good book to start with, because you see that he was a very smart writer, and he took you through things that you probably didn't know about. But as a writer, he was spectacular. This was 21 short stories that he wrote, and for me, it was just relaxing to sit and read this stuff. I remember buying that book back in 88, and did not realize that it was the first print of a paperback. So I was kind of impressed with that too. But that's kind of what I did. And I'm glad everybody else had a good time. Well, you're off too.
Yep.
Thank you. Good night.
It's hard to go wrong with Bradbury, for sure.
Yeah.
He's actually, you talk about it being a good first place to start with him. I've always found his stuff to be pretty accessible across the board. I mean, even books you wouldn't think of in terms of accessible, like something like The Martian Chronicles, because it's not a typical novel format style. It's still very readable. So yeah.
And that's short stories itself. So.
Yep.
Well, for me, not a whole lot. I kind of try to take it easy. I'm still doing the body cam stuff. Trying to think if there was anything that was just something that really kind of popped out during the 2 weeks that kind of got to me. I don't don't know. I had, there was one of them that I know I've seen before, but it had been a long time ago, and I don't know if I've talked about it. But it was one about a young lady who had called the police saying that her boyfriend had beaten her, and he had been living there, but he's now probably at his parents' house. But when she's trying to talk to the police, her story's kind of inconsistent. And at one point, she admitted that she was lying. And so the lead officer says, "Well, you know what? Let's do this. Go take a nap. Try to get your thoughts focused. I'll call you. I'll come back to you later and get a statement and all that." So they leave. They go talk to the boyfriend. The boyfriend who's out on parole or probation, or he's on pro. And you can see that he's got marks everywhere. He's got his ass kicked from her. And then he pulls out the phone and says, "Here's the video," and she's looking, the officer's looking at it and all of that. And she took a testimony from him and did the whole, raise your right hand, you swear the statement you just gave me is the truth and to the best of your abilities. And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, and you know that lying to an officer is against the law?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, I'll call you later." Then we cut back, and apparently the girl had been calling 911 4 times and even asked for a supervisor. So they show up, and she says, "Well, the boyfriend came over again, stole her keys, stole her phone, and all this type of stuff." And the lead investigator is like, "Okay, you seem to be in a better state. Can we go ahead and get your statement from you?" She says, "Okay." So she took a statement, and she says, "Okay, raise your right hand. You swear if the statement you just gave me is the truth, to the best of your abilities?" And she says, "Yeah." "And that you know that lying to an officer is against the law?" She says, "Yes. You're under arrest for lying to an officer. I was with your boyfriend when you said he was over here beating you." And she's like, Huh? I don't understand." It's like, how do you not understand? How do you not understand what was just said? You claim that your boyfriend was over here beating you, but he was talking to the officer. Yeah. And the other thing the rabbit hole I kind of went down, I guess this is all done in Europe, but it's this one guy who, according to, I guess from this time of year, he was dressed up like a Christmas tree or a snowman or something like that, and he was staying out in the street, kind of acting like he was a statue. And then when somebody would hop by, he would just kind of jump out at them, and they would videotape that, and he would put together videos and post them on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It was cute. The one I watched today was actually a gift box, and then when he jumped out, he was dressed up like the Grinch. I was like, that was cute. So you get a lot of people just screaming their heads off. So nothing special. sorry, be the letdown after everything else.
Sometimes you just kill some time on YouTube, you know.
Yep.
It happens.
So let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll get into this week's discussion. Welcome back. I think this is the second year in a row we start the year off with a music topic. Isn't that right?
Could be. A year ago was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was a day or two ago. Come on. I think we were, because we talked about the anniversary of the day the music god.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
I think that's...
It was early, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that gives you a little bit of a hint of what we're going to be talking about this week. January 8th, which by the time this tops out, it's already passed, marks the 90th anniversary of the birth of Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. And I figured we needed to take a couple of moments to acknowledge this and kind of discuss the man in his place in music industry and history and all that good stuff. So, what are your thoughts of Elvis Presley? Good answer.
She's like, man, I watched the Black Hole for this episode. What are you talking about?
This is the Elvis episode?
I thought we were talking about Elvis Costello.
Right? I was about to bring up Laurel. No, I knew it was Elvis.
Right. I guess cheesy.
I like Elvis. I was never, he died when I was like 2, but, I don't know. I guess I always leaned a different way in music than what he did. I've seen way too many movies with him in it.
Wow.
Well, she's right. There were.
There were a ton of movies. Yeah. And they always played him on Saturdays. Now, I did like his acting probably better than his music, though, for sure. I'm not saying his music was bad, don't get me wrong.
I think you just lost Les.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it was bad music. It's just, if it was on, I wouldn't turn it, but I probably wouldn't reach to put it on, you know? That sounded bad. I'm not trying to be a snob.
I think your point is that it's just sort of not your style of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've listened to
that's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that time period, I think I leaned more towards like the Beatles and stuff. The Doors.
Yeah, that's not quite the right time period.
What time period was he?
Elvis was...
He
was still around in the 70s, but he started out in the mid-50s.
Oh, okay. So not the Doors.
Early 50s. No, not contemporaries.
Yeah. Now, I think, given the music at the time, he was probably one of the better ones for sure. That even sounded worse. I think I'm just going to shut up. Take it away, Mikey.
What type of Tic Tacs are those again?
Right. I did buy them in Colorado.
So they are inherently high. But anyway.
Oh, man. I just kept digging.
Yeah.
I'll stomp on my head.
You are digging. That's fine.
I
You
mean,
don't have to be a big
a
fan.
lot of props, because, I mean, he was huge,
Right. And
you know,
I think
so.
that's the deal. You don't have to
Hmm.
be a huge fan of his music or his acting. But his cultural impact was massive at the time. I
Yeah.
mean, and honestly, it may be a true story. It may be an actual fact that he wasn't the best at what he did. But he was certainly in the right place at the right time and with the right attitude to spark what he sparked.
Yeah.
Honestly, he was a really good singer, but
Well, I had heard that he didn't want to be a singer, that
he
he
didn't.
would rather act than, or is it the other way around? That
No,
he would rather be an actor than a singer?
he really wanted to pursue. He really wanted to be a serious actor. I mean, he didn't have a problem singing. He enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
But I think he wanted to dedicate more. He wanted to do more serious stuff than what he was doing. Which, I mean, let's face it, the majority of the films he did were nothing but showcases of his music.
Yeah.
Right.
But
How pretty he was.
Well, sure.
Which he was. Oh, yeah, he
Sure.
was.
And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, we talked about, I don't remember, we talked about appearances. Oh, yeah, you were talking about Demi Moore, and the movie that she was in, and how appearances are such a huge part of essentially culture. Yeah, he was a pretty boy doing something that a lot of people did before him, and he somehow was the one who sparked the cultural revolution around it. And I mean, how much of that had to do with his appearance, you know? I mean, it certainly had to do with the way he acted on stage.
mm-hmm.
It was very provocative for the time.
Very.
He got a lot of shit for it. But
Yep.
it also was insanely popular.
That was his moonwalk.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
There might not have ever been a moonwalk if it hadn't have been for Elvis.
Yeah. Very true.
I mean, if nothing else, R&B got a big jolt. It shifted into the mainstream a lot more because of a white guy in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you will about that, but
For sure.
You talk about the provocative dancing. When he was on Sullivan, they only showed him from the waist up. They didn't show.
That was intentional, boys and girls.
Yep.
Because this was the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a certain way that you were allowed to do things back then.
And gyrating hips wasn't one of them.
Was not one of them.
Oh.
Very frowned upon.
Mm-hmm. The 50s was an interesting time.
Mm-hmm.
We could probably learn a lot about our current times if we studied the 50s a little more. But anyway, not going down that road.
Too late.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have two sisters who were teenagers at the time that he came forward. And they adored him. They still think that he is the one. And I can kind of understand their thought process.
Yeah.
He was magnetic.
Mm-hmm.
He's a person that could do most anything. Now, his acting was a little suspect, but he could control a crowd without any problem. I was proud enough to be at one of his concerts. I thought that was pretty special.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
That's wild. Could you hear any of it?
Yeah, you could,
Cool.
because this was in the 70s. So yeah, there were some people that were screaming and yelling, crying out his name, but they were kind of overshadowed by his music.
And the amplifiers.
Yeah.
Turn up the bass.
Turn it up! Turn it up! Which outfit was he wearing? Do you remember?
I'm sorry?
Which outfit was he wearing? If this was 70s.
Oh, I couldn't remember that.
Remember that? Okay.
I was too busy looking at the women screaming.
Good man.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's probably why you're there in the first place, but that's cool.
And he won, what, 2 Grammys? I think. And they were both for spiritual songs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the garden.
Yeah, I think that was one of them, yeah.
See, I was probably more familiar with his gospel music because of my daddy.
I believe
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a complete package. I mean, he had the voice,
Mm-hmm.
he had the looks, he had the smile, and then
Charm.
when he had the charm, and when he talked, it was like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. That that. So I mean, yeah, there was people upset about the dancing and probably how long his hair was and all that type of stuff, but he was still the guy next door.
Yeah.
He just happens to be able to sing the hell out of things. I don't go out of my way to listen to his music, but I if it's on, I do enjoy it.
Yeah. I know the words.
Yeah.
Right. I have a greatest hits album somewhere.
Yeah. In terms of his acting, I've seen some of his movies. I've seen better. I've seen worse. I take it for what it is. It's basically, like I said, it's basically a 2-hour promotion of a new album, and that's fine. I mean, it's music videos before there was music videos.
Mm-hmm.
There just happens to be a kind of, I was about to say some videos have stories to them, but y'all know where I'm going with that. So,
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't the only one that did that type of stuff. I mean, there was a lot of musical acts that were big enough to where they would get a movie, or there would be or the beach films.
That's the first thing I thought when you said that was Frankie Avalon.
Yeah.
I mean, that his music was the only reason he had an acting career.
Right.
Pretty much like Elvis.
Yeah.
Elvis was just bigger and better at it.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely more known
Right.
than Avalon or most anybody else.
Yep. Pretty much the biggest thing that happened in music until, the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
My sisters tell the story that they would go to somebody's house and listen to records and things like that. And they would, when the Beatles came out, my sisters would kind of go to another room so they could listen to Elvis.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And of course, I had to participate for American Bandstand because my sisters wanted to dance. And this was not my kind of fun, as they were doing this and making me miss shows like Form of Scotty, which was a local kids show in Oklahoma City. So I wasn't happy about it, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Let me go back to something you just said. They actually left the room to listen to Elvis instead of listening to the Beatles. Did they ever come around to the Beatles?
Oh, they liked the Beatles, but they were
would rather
just so
listen to
tired
Elvis.
of listening to the Beatles.
Oh, okay.
And after 10 years, they hadn't gotten sick of Elvis yet.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Also, to go back to something you said, American Bandstand.
Mm-hmm.
Was this before Dick Clark, or did you get to meet Dick Clark?
That was Dick Clark time. 50s was Dick Clark.
Because they did that as a kind of as a road show for a while, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was a local show for like Philly. It was Philadelphia before it became national.
Right.
I seem to think that there was also a tour as well. They did. I don't know if I'm sure they did some tours, because I know there was at one time there was a band that had Walt Peterzader and Terry Kath playing bass.
Maybe
He was
that's
the
where I
bass player.
heard about that.
Yeah. And I don't remember who else from Chicago was part of that band. It may have been Danny Serapine. But yeah, they were part of one of the bands that went around touring. I believe it was for Dick Clark, for the American Bandstand.
Sounds
It was
right.
one of those. Yeah.
Been a little while since I saw that documentary, but that's probably what planted that in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that documentary too. I just remember that because it was the fact that Terry was included just because he took up the bass.
Right.
Which he was a really good bass player too. Anybody who listened to Robert Lamb's Skinny Boy would probably say yeah, because he plays bass on that album.
Anyway, Elvis.
Sorry.
No, you were not the one who started that tangent.
I may ask, what was your favorite Elvis song?
Oh, wow.
In the Garden.
No hesitation.
My dad sang that one at my grandma's funeral. A beautiful song.
Very nice.
Yeah, I could see where that might generate some bias.
Yeah. Just a little. I remember that one playing at her house all the time, though.
Right.
She liked Elvis, too. And I think she liked it when not only would he had his regular music, Heartbreak Hotel, Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. I think she really liked when he put out the gospel album, though. Johnny Cash did the same thing, so it was kind of a not so guilty pleasure anymore. You know?
Right. Again, the 50s.
Yeah.
That actually comes from before that too, but still there in the 50s. Yeah, rock and roll music was of the devil in certain circles, in certain religious circles.
And she was true Pentecostal, long skirts, little bun, But she did like Elvis.
It's kind of nice to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's yours?
hard to narrow that down.
Yeah.
The one that I think stands out most for me is Blue Suede Shoes.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure why, other than it's early Elvis, and it's one you hear a lot when you see the clips of him in the screaming crowds. So, I don't know. I think it's just one I've heard a lot, and I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, a lot of his stuff is good, but I think that's the one that stands out the most.
I kind of have the same problem. There's kind of like there's too many, but if I had to pick one and say, okay, this is the only thing I can listen to, Jailhouse Rock.
Yeah.
Because I love the sound. So.
Mm-hmm.
Was there one that you disliked?
I have to look at his songs.
It's a long list.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would. I mean, I'm not sure there's one I would just skip on a playlist or anything.
Yeah.
I didn't care for Hunka Burnin' Love. It's like, give the boy a fire hydrant. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I kind of, looking at his songs, I guess I did lean more towards his gospel music. I don't know what you'd consider In the Ghetto, but that was also a nice song, too.
Yeah, it is.
Good choices.
What are yours?
My favorite is I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Hum a few bars. We'll figure it out.
Just found a girl, but Elvis, as the singer, was saying that she was with me last week type situation. I do like that one.
Okay.
And to me, the funniest one was Do the Clam.
From your favorite movie.
Oh, shit, no. But that struck me as funny because, the backstory there was that it was co-written. One of the co-writers was Dolores Fuller, who was in the movie Glenn or Glinda. She played the girlfriend that gave her sweater to
Glenn.
the boyfriend, when he was saying that, talking about he was being somebody that avoided wearing women's clothes. So to me, that was the funniest thing I'd seen. For sure.
It's a hell of a 6 steps of 6 degrees of separation. That's for sure.
So you like clam bake, huh, Les?
Oh, God, no. I really did not like his movies. To me, they were just dribble. And I like bad movies, but those are so bad I wouldn't even watch them.
I liked the Hawaii one.
Blue Hawaii.
Blue Hawaii, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About girls.
Huh?
Girls, and clam bake, and
Kid Galahad with Charles Bronson.
So I'm sure I've seen all of these.
Yeah, that's right. Charles Bronson in the Elvis Presley movie.
Yeah.
You talk, and I brought up clam bake. I've watched that a couple of times, and it still floors me when I watch that. And I'm seeing the female lead, and I'm like, she is so good looking. I'm like, wait, that's Shelley Fabre? Oh my God. It doesn't look like the same person that I'm familiar with, because I think of her as how she looks on the show Coach with Craig T. Nelson.
There's a few years between there.
Yeah, there's a couple of years, but I mean, we're also talking about different hair color and style and all that. I mean, she's still a very good looking woman, but back then it's like, wow.
I remember her from Donna Reed show.
This is interesting. People consider his biggest hits to be Don't Be Cruel to be number 1 and Hound Dog to be number 2, which was kind of weird because they were on the same album. And, usually when they record their hit, they have a B-side.
Mm-hmm.
And Hound Dog was supposed to be his B-side to Don't Be Cruel, but eventually hit number 2. So at that time, you had a double-sided hit,
That happens from time to time.
Well, and sometimes they'll also re-release the single. They'll take the B-side and release it as the A-side of another single.
Yeah.
That's not unusual either.
Yeah.
But seeing those two, I would say that's probably his most iconic. And the other one, 'cause I can't help falling in love with you. That's probably been in every romance movie since the 80s. So I would have to say that was probably up there with those. I wonder where that is. Someone's put a list together for us.
Convenient.
Got you down.
Oh, of course, with streaming, those numbers or those songs have changed, which number 1 song was Can't Help Falling in Love. Streamed over 1 billion times, over 500,000 times daily.
Wow.
I was going to say 1 billion streams is not really that much anymore.
Yeah.
True.
With the second being Jailhouse Rock at 500,000 or 500 million.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
All right, so the ultimate question, the most important question. Have you been to Graceland?
Mm-mm.
No.
Holy shit, I'm the only one? I am shocked. I am thoroughly shocked.
Where is Graceland?
Memphis.
Memphis.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The Paul Simon song. Come on. He says it right there.
I
don't
was
think I've
walking
ever
in
been
Memphis.
to
Not
Memphis.
that. That's not Paul Simon.
I know.
Now, if I made a trip to Memphis, I definitely would go to Graceland.
Should. It's interesting.
Just because he left a big, huge footprint in the music world, and I'll always respect that. It's hard to get into that industry and remain memorable, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, my big regret for that was that we went there, but we were actually in a hurry that day, and so I would have done a bigger like musical tour of Memphis, but we didn't get the chance. All we really had time to do at that point was hit Graceland on the way out of town.
Yeah.
It was interesting still, but I would have liked to have checked out some of the other landmarks.
Slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Checked out some of the other stuff. Was it Sun Records?
Yeah, it's Sun Records. I was about to ask about that.
And I would have loved to have checked that out too, but I didn't get the chance.
Oh, I am impressed that you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I made my pilgrimage.
Paid your dues.
Mm-hmm.
And committed no crimes. Wrong band.
Wouldn't call it serving a sentence, but you know, I see where you're going with this. And bad mistakes. I've made a few.
Just a few. But we made it through.
Good Lord.
That wasn't the next line, Les. You could have been a champion with us.
Why? Because you're the champions?
Yep, of the world.
Scary, huh?
Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl.
Oh, see, that's not the Lola related song that popped into my head, but okay.
Mm.
We sure is la 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 oh la.
I knew in a
I think
pub
that's the
down
only
in Old
one I
Soho
know.
where we drank champagne and it tasted just like Coca-Cola. See, I used the original line from the song there, not the one they had to change it to because they were going to get sued.
Yo, 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 yo.
Man, remember how I was telling y'all I was losing my mind? We're driving down to Colorado, 14-hour trip, right? And I usually let Phil whatever he wants to listen to on the radio. I like about everything. Well, Kiss came on and it got me talking about how they may be a really overrated band for the talent that they have. And the song is called, now I know this, it's called All Hell Breaks Loose. And I said, like, take this song. I said, what the hell? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, all hell the Frankenboots. What the hell? And he's like, what? For years, I have thought that song was All Hell the Frankenboots. And he's like, no.
The old misheard lyrics problem.
Right. Once you told me, it made sense.
I'm sure it did.
Excuse me while I kiss this guy.
But doesn't Frankenboots also make sense for Kiss? Any other band, maybe not, but Kiss? that wear the Frankenboots?
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, a little Edgar Winter.
Hmm.
Now, one, be careful because Amelia might listen
Yeah.
and she might take exception to you picking on Kiss. But
Right.
also,
Believe me, that crossed my mind too. So,
listening to Pitney and Amelia talk about Kiss, because they did a whole fucking episode not that long ago.
yeah.
I think I figured out what the deal with Kiss was, and it was the only way I could make it make sense with Pitney and Amelia's absolute devotion to them. It's basically camp.
Yeah.
They are the Batman
Kitsch.
66 version of heavy metal. It's the only way it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm not picking on them saying that. I can respect it. That doesn't mean I want to listen to it a whole lot, but that's what I finally realized about Kiss, is that they're the camp version of glam metal.
hmm And back then, everybody had to have that one thing that made them different. Elvis, it was gyrating hips. Kiss, it was the Franken boots and makeup.
Well, honestly, in the merchandising,
Yeah.
let's be realistic. They were geniuses at merchandising themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were on Scooby,
Uh-huh.
like, more than once. I think they did, like, a whole movie with them, too. So they definitely knew how to...
They knew how to sell themselves.
Yep.
Plain and simple.
Well, and just like I was saying about Elvis, that you can make yourself so memorable in this world.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely did that, too.
They did that and then capitalized on it, too.
Yeah.
And Elvis could have done that, and honestly, Colonel Tom Parker pretty much did. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is why Elvis did as many movies as he did, was because it was a way to sell records.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Colonel Tom Parker was many things, but primarily he was a salesman.
Yep. Well, he did pretty well, so,
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like I said, go to Graceland and see.
Yeah.
There's
And
some
it
interesting
seems
stuff
like
there.
no matter how young you are, most people can name at least one Elvis song.
Right.
It's true.
There's not too many bands that are timeless.
Yep. And Elvis is making a pretty good run at it.
Yeah, he is.
Because, hell, we're still talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we particularly don't talk about nostalgic stuff all the time, but...
Yeah. I think the Beatles wrote the instruction manual for it. It's like, here, do this. They like it. Not you. Wiggle your hips.
Right, and it kind of makes you wonder how much of that they learned from Elvis. I mean, I think they've got one or two, I mean, I don't know that they covered any specifically Elvis songs, but they covered music that was popular in that time frame, like on their first album.
Yeah. Well, most bands starting out usually are cover tunes, just till they get you to listen to them so you'll listen to their stuff.
Well, and part of that is also learning how to write a song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to kind of learn how to play it before you can figure out how to write it. And you got to learn it well enough to understand how it works.
Yeah.
It's all part of the process.
It is. And those that do it, you let them do it. Don't interfere.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt anything.
Mm-mm.
I mean, if they're good, they'll be good, and if they're not, then they'll find something else. It's fine.
Yep.
Don't ever tell a kid no in that regard. I mean, there are things you tell them no on. Don't get me wrong, but expressing themselves and trying to create something, trying to make art, let them go. Give them a little bit of leash. It's fine.
Yep.
Give them a little slack. You never know. They might be the next Elvis Presley.
Yeah. Which is why I've always liked that you never hear of big bands going against bands just starting for covering their songs. You know, it's like they knew that's the dues you play, and now you're finally the band being played instead of, you know, playing someone else's.
Yep. It's never been made illegal to play someone else's song at a live gig.
Mm-mm.
Kind of hard to police that, really. But
It is.
it all works out in the end.
Well, if any band can do it, I know there's one that would.
Mm-hmm. Metallica?
No.
I had to, sorry.
They did a whole album of covers. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but they were also the beginning of the Napster thing.
Yes.
They didn't
You're
like to share.
The band I was talking about was the Eagles.
Oh, yep.
I mean, Henley is so crazy.
Yeah, so was Glenn Frey.
Yep.
You know, totally off subject.
We never do
Les
that
had
around here.
No, we don't do that.
Les had recommended a guy that covers, like nostalgia music and that kind of stuff. And he was talking about Steve Perry. And Steve Perry was with Journey. And they said that he came to the band with a song. And they were all like, "Nah, I don't think we want to do that. You know, we don't want to put that, you know, under Journey's brand." You know, so Steve Perry went off and he recorded it on his own, and it became a hit. It was "Oh Sherry."
Yep.
It's like, that sucks. You know, they were kicking themselves. They're like, "Man, we should have recorded that." You know? But they said that's what he did a lot of times, that if the band just didn't think that song fit their vibe, he would just go and record it solo then. And I guess apparently they're cool with that, you know. Some bands aren't. Look what happened to Sammy Hagar. They're like, if you want to do it on your own, just go do it on your own. We'll get Dave back.
Uh-huh. He had been doing it on his own long before Van Halen came along.
He had, yeah. That's why he was like, okay.
Right, no problem. Talk to you guys later.
Yeah, long live the Red Rocker. Yeah, sorry. We had a lot of music discussion on the way to and from Colorado.
Sounds like.
Yeah. Especially when you have satellite radio, so it was a little bit of everything.
Oh, man, yeah, much bigger variety.
Yep.
Although I went on a trip a few years back, I'm not sure how many years ago it was. It was pre-pandemic. It was we were going to it was on the East Coast, and I was just because I don't travel a lot, I don't go very far, so all the radio stuff sounds the same to me. But there was a radio station. We found we got there, we rented the car, we were driving. I found the classic rock station, and man, the playlist was way different, which was really kind of cool. I got to hear some shit there that I hadn't heard in years, just because they don't play it on the radio here.
Yeah. Our music is now considered the classic music. It's like, when the hell did that happen?
Oh, God.
I should not be hearing this song on this station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as I know, we still have a station in Dallas that they just play 80s music all the time. I think they're still around. I haven't actually checked lately because I don't want to listen to it, but
Yeah. I got tired of all the talk radio. It's like, man, did you guys not learn anything from MTV? People just want their music, you know. But with Cirrus, it's not that bad. They may tell a story about the song coming up, but it's not a whole lot of Russ Martin, you know.
it's not a lot of DJs talking through the entire playthrough of Axel F because they don't realize it's an instrumental.
Yeah.
They're talking until the singing starts, and well, strangely enough, the singing doesn't start in that song. But anyway.
Yeah. But they do have a Beatles station. I like that one.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I wonder if they have an Elvis station.
I didn't see one.
They do have one, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
I'll have to look again then. I know they have an Outlaw Country one, which is not Outlaw Country. I'm sorry. For whoever's listening, Post Malone and Jelly Roll is not Outlaw Country, okay? Waylon Jennings spits on that.
Right. People never heard of Johnny Cash, for crying out loud. Come on.
Right? I have never heard Johnny Cash. I mean, I have it saved, and we'll check it every once in a while, like maybe, you know? Why would they call themselves if they're not going to play any? And no, it's always some kind of crap.
Labels are weird.
It is.
Labels are weird. That's just the way it is. That's why I hate labels.
But it's hard to find music without labels.
Well, no, I understand, but they're also wrong a lot.
Yeah. A lot.
It's just the way it is. Some things never change.
Speaking
Yeah.
of the 80s.
I say we heard that song quite a few times too, and it was weird because we could start talking about like a really obscure band we haven't heard of in a while, and I guarantee you we'll hear it at least 6 times on that trip. It happened with Extreme, and then on this time around it was Winger.
Oh wow!
You don't hear those two bands very much, right?
No, not anymore.
It's at least 6 times, man.
I don't know if Extreme is. I wouldn't be surprised if Winger is, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Extreme fell apart some time ago. I mean, there may be some portion of the band that is still together and like 1 or 2 guys still calling themselves that, but...
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, what happened to them is they made their hits during the ballad time.
Mm-hmm.
When all the rock bands were singing these beautiful ballads and the slowest songs ever. And then when, like, Nirvana came on the scene and Soundgarden and those kind of people, they were kind of like, I don't want to sing about loving my dog, you know? So they kind of broke that up, which kind of, I honestly think it kind of jump-started the rock world again. Got them out of that whiny stage, you know. Some bands were able to do it and move on from that. Bands like Winger and Extreme couldn't. That's all they knew how to do. And people didn't want any more ballads. We wanted melt our face off rock and roll back. You know,
we wanted grunge.
Not make me cry. Yeah.
And what actually kind of sounded a lot like punk at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. That would be the early 90s.
Things, yep. And it shook it back up, and we had the good bands rise back to the top and quit doing that. Like Motley Crue, they were rock, then they were ballad, and then they came back out on the other side and were okay, you know.
Right.
But some bands just couldn't. And you got it. Music world's kind of like fashion. You have to keep up or you're going to get left behind. That's just the way people's attention span and everything else works on that.
Mm-hmm. It's that popularity drives popularity thing.
Mm-hmm.
The
and you
popularity
got 2 minutes.
doesn't necessarily work the way you think it should.
Yep. No matter how good you were, you're only as good as your last song.
Yep. Unless you're Elvis, and then you're timeless.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, even if you look at the history of his music, he was keeping up.
Oh, right. He shifted styles. His style grew with his career for sure.
Yep. And he, at that time, became what people were keeping up with was him because he was setting, like you said, he mixed blues with rock and he was introducing a whole different culture to different people and everything. That's what people were looking at and had to keep up with. If you couldn't do that, you weren't going to make it when he was,
Mm-hmm. Yep. You don't get from Hound Dog to Suspicious Minds via In the Garden.
Yeah. In the ghetto.
And without changing, without growing.
Yep.
I mean,
And he did.
He grew. I mean, he stayed who he was, but grew along the way also, and that's where you get the timelessness from.
And he did it without changing who he was.
Yeah.
You have a lot of bands who try to keep up and reinvent themselves to totally be not what captured fans to begin with, almost to the point of a sellout to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to decide, do I want to keep my fans and keep the fame I have here, or do I want to sell out and hit a different fan base? Sometimes it works. Sometimes people are like, nah, screw that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Linkin Park's learning that right now. And it worked for Metallica. So sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I mean, Metallica is a funny example because they actually did lose a lot of their fans along the way, but they gained so many new ones that it didn't matter anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all because they embraced grunge.
I don't know if that was grunge.
It was their version of it anyway.
Yeah.
There was a lot of influence, whether it was good or bad. Well, and again, we're coming from the perspective of the fans they lost along the way. So, whatever it was, they didn't do it the way we thought they should.
And one other thing before I go back to Elvis, blew my mind. I did not know this. I did not know. Now, I knew that Dave Mustaine was with Metallica, right? Before they hit it big, before Garage Days, all that other kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that he was Metallica's singer. That James Hetfield was only a guitar player until they kicked him out of there. So it's like, wow. I mean, how many times have we seen that where, like Kurt Cobain, when he died, David Grohl had no idea he could sing. He was a drummer, and now he's a singer-guitarist,
I wouldn't go so far as to say that he didn't know he could sing. He sang backup.
Well, but he didn't know
the whole time he was
do
in Nirvana.
What he's doing with Foo Fighters,
I bet he did.
Yeah.
He moved in. I mean, I don't want to cast any aspersions on Dave Grohl. I think he's a great. He's a groundbreaking musician.
Yeah.
But Kurt Cobain died in '94. The Foo Fighters album came out in '95.
Yeah.
If he wasn't already planning it, he cranked it out awfully fast, and it's a really good debut album.
You have to also look at the last year of Kurt Cobain's life. He was in and out of rehabs. He was running away. Half the time they couldn't find him. So even before Kurt Cobain died, his band was already planning something else because they
That's my point.
There was this ain't gonna last too much longer.
When Kurt pulled the trigger, Dave Grohl already was probably starting to write, if not record, that first Foo Fighters album. Because it takes a while to do that, especially when you're doing it all by yourself.
Yeah. I had no idea Dave Mustaine. I mean, could you imagine Metallica with Dave Mustaine as the singer today?
It seems like a different band, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, keep in mind that Dave Mustaine would not have been anywhere near as angry a bastard as he turned out to be if Metallica hadn't fired him. But still, yeah, it would have been a very different band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was like, wow, I did not know that. And that piece of trivia came from Phil. Go Phil.
Yay, Phil.
Yay.
Had you heard that Elvis, the guy that we were talking about, Elvis was considered a better guitarist than he was a singer?
He was considered what?
He was considered a better guitarist than the singer. That was by his bandmates.
I could see that, though.
When he was growing up, he was also very shy about the singing.
Yes.
He didn't sing in public much. So I'm kind of not surprised.
Yeah.
Because most of the people who thought that way probably didn't realize he could sing because he hadn't. So yeah, I believe that.
So, happy birthday, Elvis.
Happy birthday, Elvis.
I didn't think of it until it was too late, but I kind of kicked myself for not thinking to rewatch Bubba Hotep for this episode.
I was just thinking about Bubba Hotep.
I didn't think of it until like 2 days ago. I was like, damn it. There's no way I can watch it again in time.
I wonder if Bruce Campbell wished him a happy birthday.
Man, I hope so.
He better have.
Yeah.
That's another thing. If y'all haven't seen that one, you have to see that one.
It's pretty good. It's kind of a weird movie, but it's a good weird movie.
It is. I'd have to say one of my favorites of his.
All right.
Everyone always thinks Ash, and I go back to Bubba Hotep.
Probably Les's favorite Elvis movie.
I think you're right.
And on that note, we are going to go ahead and take a quick break and be back with Geek News for You. We are back, and it's time for Geek News for You. In this segment, we bring a couple of news items to the table for discussion. This week, it's Mikey and myself. And Mike, would you go first, please, sir?
Oh, sure. This week, I got a follow-up to a topic I talked about recently. I don't remember if it was the last time I did news or not, but sometime recently. I had mentioned that the new Nosferatu movie was coming out Christmas Day. And Les was kind enough to preface me on this by giving it a glowing review, which is fun because my whole deal today is the glowing reviews that this movie is getting. People are really liking this movie, which makes me look that much more forward to seeing it. But yeah, people are really digging it. One of the movie guys that Tom watches on YouTube did a glowing review of this movie, and a guy that I watch on YouTube who does movie reviews also did a glowing review of this movie. So reviewers that we actually trust are saying positive things about this. They are comparing it positively to the Murnau version the 1922 version, while saying how it also ties in Dracula along the way, kind of merging the two back together again the way they should have been, since the original was kind of taken wholesale from Dracula. But we don't talk about that because we're just happy it wasn't completely destroyed when the Stoker estate tried to do that. We're glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And both of the reviewers agreed with Les in that it is definitely the best Nosferatu film in the last century by a ways. Neither of the reviewers the other reviewers that I saw had much positive to say about the 79, the Klaus Kinski version. But yeah, they were all on board for this one. So
Did you see
again,
where the director credited SpongeBob for all the younger people who know who Nosferatu is?
I did hear something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which makes me like this guy even more, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, the one movie of his that I have seen already was also really good. It actually makes me want to, even though I was not interested in his other couple of movies, I am now more curious about them.
Yeah.
Because of all the good stuff I'm hearing. And I want to watch this one first, obviously, but I might actually have to go back and watch The Lighthouse.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. So.
Because The Witch was amazing. Even though it got kind of mixed reviews at the time. It was a really good movie.
I don't think I saw that one.
It was also known as the movie that put Anya Taylor-Joy on the map. So there's also that.
Goodness. Oh, I'm sorry.
Taco has an opinion.
Surprise, surprise.
I know, right?
If you go see it at the Alamo, I'm going to recommend that because they do give the pre-show a taste of Nosferatu and Dracula. Show you the things that are different and the things that are very similar. So that's what I'm going to tell you, Mike, is try that.
Cool.
All right. Since it is the beginning of a new year, several items have fallen into public domain, which it always happens, and it's always an interesting list to see what happens, what actually shows up. And I've got a list here, and then there's an article that caught my attention. So let's start off with some books. These are now officially in public domain. How about A Farewell to Arms?
Oh,
wow. The Hemingway estate's not staying on it.
I guess not.
They gave up.
How about Red Harvest and the Maltese Falcon?
Ooh.
How about the first English translation of All Quiet on the Western Front?
Interesting.
Let's see. let's look at some of the films. There's apparently a dozen more Mickey Mouse shorts that are now public domain, including his first talking appearance, the Carnival Kid. How about the Coconuts?
Oh,
The first Marx Brothers. Yep.
Interesting.
Blackmail, which is Alfred Hitchcock's first sound movie. Let's see what else there is. The Black Watch, which is actually John Ford's first sound film. Spite Marriage, which was directed by Edward Sedgwick and Buster Keaton, and this is actually Keaton's final silent film.
Ooh.
And Say It With Songs, which was a follow-up to The Jazz Singer and The Singing Fool. So there's just a few of the films. But, let's see. Musical compositions. Singing in the Rain. Ain't Misbehaving. Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
Oh, wow.
Happy Days Are Here Again. That's good enough there. But the thing that...
Okay, in our defense, generally speaking, we know these titles because we've seen them in other things, not because we were there when they came
That's
out.
right.
We're not that old people.
Well, maybe
Now,
Liz.
wait a second.
I'm including you in this.
How do you know I wasn't there?
Because I know math. That's how I know you weren't there. Now, I don't know about the time machine you have in your garage, but I do know math.
Now, here's a couple of characters that are now available in public domain.
Uh-oh.
How about Buck Rogers?
Really?
Beep, beep.
They finally let him go.
First appeared in 1929. It says, but technically the futuristic space hero has already been copyright free for decades, despite claims that he was still copyrighted. This is because the copyright registration for the Buck Rogers comic strip was also not renewed, so that its copyright expired after 28 years. The original version of the character was actually introduced in a novella as Anthony Rogers in 1928. That character's long been in public domain. So,
yeah, cool.
Another character that's available, I think it's just public domain in America, but it won't be in Europe for another couple of years. Tintin.
Oh.
Huh. Cool.
And get ready for this. This character already has not one, not two, but 3 slasher films already in production using this character.
Winnie the Pooh?
Nope. I mean, we already had a couple of Winnie the Poohs. So.
Mm-hmm.
How about Popeye the Sailor?
Slasher.
As a slasher.
Oh, man. Well, we already kind of saw Olive Oil in a slasher movie.
Well, that's because from what I read, Olive Oil has been available for a couple of years because she was 1919.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah, she predates Popeye.
Yeah, I was kidding because Shelley Duvall in The Shining.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of an interesting list of stuff that's now in public domain, especially the novels.
Yeah.
That kind of blew my mind. And that's just a small portion.
Yeah, just a sampling.
Yep, a sample.
He's sampling the stuff that he's pretty sure we know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting about the Dashiell Hammett novels.
Definitely. That definitely surprised me because I was like, that doesn't sound right. Especially
I didn't think they were that old.
Well, especially the Maltese Falcon.
Right. You'd think somebody would maintain a copyright on
Mm-hmm.
it. But there may not be anybody left to maintain a copyright on it.
That's a good point. So.
I wonder if Continental Hawk is now open. That was another character by Hammett.
May have to look into it.
Depends on when it came out.
It was very close to the same time as Sam Spade.
Okay.
Maybe next year then. Who knows? Or maybe it already is. Have to look it up.
Well, we're inching closer and closer to where some of the comic book characters are going to start popping up. Which has got me thinking if I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'm sure people in our audience have seen it. The logo for DC Studios. I mean, you know the bullet, but do you see what's also included on that logo, or what it starts off with?
Yeah.
It starts off with the image of Superman as he was drawn back in 1938, which makes me wonder if they're using that particular image to try to create.
To try to extend the copyright.
Mm-hmm.
Could be. I wouldn't put it past
Because
them.
that's. I mean, that one's coming up. Action Comics #1. And I remember it was a couple of years ago. I don't remember what the event was, but it was included on Free Comic Book Day from DC Comics, and they used Batman in there, but Batman was wearing a costume very similar to Detective Comics 27 outfit, including the purple gloves, which makes me wonder if that was a reason that particular version of Batman was included.
Could be.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Right.
That way they can stop whoever from trying to do their version of Batman and use a costume very similar to Detective 27.
I'm not happy with Batman right now, so I'm blocking him out.
You're not happy with Batman?
No.
Oh.
I should say James Gunn. He's going to make me find him and talk to him. Have a good talking to.
Hey, what's one more restraining order?
Right? Add to the collection, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, y'all have seen the news, you know. Y'all have seen the news, right? I've been out of town all week, and I saw the news. They're talking about keeping Pattinson not as an Otherworld's Batman, but as the Batman for DCU.
I've seen Skull about it, but I just think that's all it is.
It better be.
He's going to get stern talking to here.
He is. Like I said, I will go find him and give him my reasons. It's like, doesn't he listen to our show?
Yeah, he's a big follower.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's
some
won
of our
Pattinson
casting choices. Yeah.
Play the Batman in the DCU. That's why. Because he
Yeah.
listens to our show.
It's like, yeah, we can't let Liz be happy. We'll keep Jensen over there, you know. We'll keep dangling him like a carrot.
We'll have a young Batman movie at some point, and we'll cast old Jensen to do it.
Yeah. Or we'll really piss her off, and we'll let him be the dad.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's awesome. I like it.
It's funny because there is a there is a subreddit that I follow. I just found it recently. It's called fan casting, and some of them come up with some pretty cool ideas. And someone had an interesting idea for Jensen, for him to play Catman in a Secret Six. Yeah, in a Secret Six movie. I'm like, okay, I could see that. I could see that. And someone suggested, I don't see this, but I applaud him for thinking outside the box, for Jared to play Deathstroke.
I could see that, though. See, when I think of Catman, though, Adam West used to do a thing on, God, what the hell was the name of that cartoon?
Family Guy?
No, it wasn't Family Guy. I want to say it was Nickelodeon. Fairly Odd Parents. And in that, he was Catman. And just like maybe one brain cell kind of guy.
Liz, do me a favor. Read Secret Six. That's including Catman.
Okay.
And I think that'll change your mind. Because huh?
Which version?
What do you mean, which version?
Of the Super Six.
Well, since I'm talking about Catman, I'm talking about the villain's version. The one, read the series that was written by Gail Simone, because she's the one that turned that character around. Because up until then, he was a joke. He was a joke of a character. Hell, Kevin Smith turned around and used him as a joke about the same time that Gail did. But I mean, she turned that character around to where he was actually kind of cool.
Huh.
That he was cool and interesting. So yeah, that it could work.
I'll have to check that out.
It's a good read. Yeah, because what Les is referring to is Secret Six originally was like a spy group from the 60s. It was very short-lived. But they just took that name and turned around and gave it to a villain team that's not really, they're trying to do good. So it's kind of like Thunderbolts on a smaller scale.
See, I think I read that, but like a newer version. Was it Sinister Six?
No, Secret Six. Yeah, there is Sinister Six.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Sinister Six.
Sinister Six is the Spider-Man bad guys.
Yeah.
That's Marvel.
Yeah. Secret Six is usually Catman, Deadshot. Bane's been part of it. Ragdoll. I can't remember who else there is. I'm blanking.
I'm looking at a cover. Is that Dula Dent?
I think she was in one version of the team. Yeah.
I like when they use her.
It was a very good read.
I'll have to check that out.
Uh-huh. But yeah, and the main reason was because I had read some of the Catman stuff, and yeah, it was an inferior character. I mean, not even B-list, more like C or D-list villain. And Gale turned that character around.
See, I didn't know there was actually a Catman.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, like, for Fairly Odd Parents, I thought they were kind of playing on that he was Batman. And
Well, and that probably was the case, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I
Catman
don't know.
first appeared in the 50s.
Looking at his uniform compared to Catman's, they're pretty close.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. But that's funny. It's still funny though.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I heard a lot of the scuttlebutt about
About Paxson.
Well, yeah, and then that's part of the reason why the film is being delayed to 2027. And I'm just like, okay.
That's insane.
Well, it's I don't understand it because Reeves has come out a couple of times saying all the script's great, it's in great shape and all that kind of stuff, and then Gunn comes out and says there's not even a first draft written.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, which one is it?
Which one's lying? Well, he's been real hush-hush on Batman. Superman, he was talking all about it and what his plans were. He was the same way with Creature Commandos, but when it comes to Batman, it's like, nope, we're not there yet. Even down to having a silhouette in the Creature Commandos, he was like, oh, but I don't want to commit to that. What the hell, dude? I mean, just tell us. That way if you get any hate... He
doesn't have to tell you, Liz.
He does.
He does not have to tell you.
He's not playing by the rules. He has to tell me.
He does not. That's not a rule.
It is.
You made that up.
So, it sounds good, right?
Wow. So.
That's interesting, though. I'm curious to see the Pie Slasher film. Because he yam what he yams.
Well, and that's the other thing. And from what I read, everything's available except for him eating the spinach. That wasn't brought in until 31.
Which, all of this talking about yams that he does, it seems weird that he eats spinach anyway.
Right?
Right. I am. Now we're going to have to watch the movie.
Yeah. Make it a movie night.
I think I'm busy that night.
2027 when it comes out. Yeah, I might be washing my hair too.
Oh, whatever you have planned can wait, Mike. You can watch the film with us.
I'm not watching that Robin Williams Popeye. Not again.
Yeah. That was horror enough, man.
Talk about paying my dues.
Although I do have to agree with what what Thomas said last time. You do have to see Deadpool. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's fine.
Yep.
That's fine.
We'll make you watch that one.
I'll accept that one, but I'm not watching Popeye again.
Yeah.
Don't make us go Mac McDowell or Clockwork Orange on you.
And Popeye, it's weird because HBO, Warner Brothers, all that's been messing around with Boomerang and Cartoon Network and stuff. They just took Popeye off of the streaming service. I wonder if that copyright had anything to do with it.
I don't.
That would be strange.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Because, that would give them even more right to show it.
Yeah. Well, it's theirs. They own all of that material. But they also just shut down Cartoon Network's website, which has been open for 26 years, I think they said. So any of the cartoons that were over there that you could watch that weren't on TV are gone. They're not even going to stream them over on Max, which was the original plan. So.
Yeah, I'm afraid a lot of those are going to be gone for good.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad because it's things like Popeye, you know. And newer ones too, but yeah. But watching the classics get cut hurts.
Although, you know what, honestly, I would rather them go away than for them to be edited.
Yeah.
I'd rather have them whole with an advisory saying, hey.
Well, you know, I only saw that for a little while. And, you know, I'm a big Boomerang fan, and they play a lot of Looney Tunes because Looney Tunes was butchered there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they forgot about it or just didn't air those on Boomerang then. Maybe it was different on Max. I always watched it on Boomerang, but they kind of went back to normal. One thing I was surprised about, there's a cartoon with Porky Pig and a dog, and the dog is, you know, trying to stay with Porky Pig because he doesn't want to go back to the city. Well, part of his speech, he goes, look, there's the towers. Oh my God, they're on fire, you know. And it was like, oh my God. I mean, you know, he like kind of talks about 9/11. And of course, this is like, what, 50, 60 years ago? They had no idea, but I'm surprised when they're cutting out smoking and guns and, you know, fake blood and this kind of stuff, that something like that wasn't cut out of a cartoon. Not that I wanted it to, but I was surprised. I was, you know, the way he describes it, it's like, wow, you know, that could be very triggering to someone who was traumatized during that, you know. So that seemed to be the criteria to cut things, right? But it was weird.
Well, I mean, I guess the thinking is that kids would not get that reference as opposed to a character putting a gun in front and up to the face of another character and pulling the trigger.
Yeah. But in cartoons, how many times did that work? It always backfired or blew up or, you know. No one ever lost their head. So it's kind of like, I didn't understand the outrage of that, but look at these video games we have. They're realistic. You're a real person walking into a mall just shooting people up. But that's okay, but Elmer Fudd shooting Bugs Bunny isn't. So
well, Daffy Duck getting shot in the face and his bill flips around to the other side of the head.
Yeah.
You can't show that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can show the results, but you can't actually show the puff of smoke and the blast. You can't show that.
Yeah. See, and I never saw that as violent. I thought, that's funny. Especially the way that it happened. You know, it wasn't just done for the sake of it being done. There was a point, and it was, you know, usually furthered the joke along. But yeah, like I said, I thought that was kind of.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, and I've been on the record many times saying I think censorship of any kind is wrong. You know, I don't care what it is, but.
Well, it's been a while, but I don't remember as a kid watching that thinking, oh, that would be funny if I grab a gun and do that to somebody.
Right.
Just like I didn't think, oh, here's a cliff, so I'm going to take a couple of steps off of it and see if I stand there for a couple of seconds before I look down, and then that's when I realize I'm falling.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Now, I did think I could fly with an umbrella. Only for Michelle's egging on, but yeah, that didn't work either. But no, it was never anything like, yeah, I'm going to shoot my duck, you know. I guess it wouldn't have been as funny as if Elmer Fudd was successful. So I never really saw him as violent. I saw him as funny, you know. He wasn't going to hurt Bugs Bunny. We all knew that.
So.
But yeah. I'll have to look that up and show you guys what I was talking about. Because like I said, it was kind of like, wow. That kind of got dark for a minute, and I don't think they meant for it to.
Alrighty, any special mentions or shout-outs this week?
No, not me.
Nothing here.
No, nothing here.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move on to our regular shout-outs. First of all, I want to thank Pop Goes to Culture for allowing us to be part of a great little podcast network. Definitely check them out. There'll be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who retweet our links on Twitter/X. Those are our Podern family. The best way to check them out is to do a search, #PodernFamily, all one word. Just scroll through whatever catches your attention. By all means, click on that link and download that episode, and we hope you have a great time listening to them. I want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. In our show notes, there will be a link to where you can check out some of their other pieces of music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. If you want to reach out to us, there are several ways you can do that. Email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to our website and go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out there. We do have a Discord, which has been mentioned a couple times this episode, I believe. We usually post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at, stuff to hear, trailers, fun activities, all that good stuff. We do have an open invitation on our homepage. It's free to sign up, and the apps are free in the app stores. Social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. On Instagram, Twitter, and Bluesky, we are at Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow us, our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_geek. Les can be found, or may not be found, at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind enough to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We do appreciate support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,